Yo. Hi there, this is Arakai Moon with Star Siren Astrology, and I come to you on this crazy, electrifying, earth-shaking full moons in Taurus. This is a full moon that is so strong and so illuminating and radically transforming. It is conjuncting Uranus, also in Taurus, and it is opposing the Sun and Venus, who is retrograde in Scorpio. And the Taurus and Scorpio axes is the ultimate tantric axes. You know, it's deeply bringing us into the physicality and our values and our worth. And it's also bringing us into this place of alchemical merging, transforming, unearthing of subconscious layers and hidden desires, this, when I say tantric axes, is true tantra. It's alchemical. It's humbling and revealing and illuminating to the deepest parts of our being so that we can have true revelations and true transformations. And if these last two moons weren't as intense enough, completely bringing our deeply sensitive and vulnerable places up to the surface, bringing our relationships up to be tested, to be radically initiated. I feel our relationships have really been in it, been getting challenged, and our deep desires and our relationship to power and our motives and our intentions have all been asked to be revised and brought into the light, brought into integrity, so that we can reclaim, these places where we've given our power away, so that we can make new agreements and new boundaries and renew these places of our sexuality and renew our relationships and renew our sense of worth and our relationship to our own power and our own unique essence. And so with that, let's dive in and muse together to see how we can allow these times to initiate these parts of our life in the highest octave possible, in the most empowered and co-creative way. So this full moon in Taurus is deeply sensual and erotic, but yet it's really practical and grounded. Taurus is actually ruled by Venus, so it creates this beautiful Venusian quality to the moon, where we want to be physically comforted and pleasured and bring our spiritual world into this physical experience. And yet she's conjuncting Uranus, the planet of radical change and sudden unexpected shifts and trauma and earth shaking, foundations crumbling. It's the tower where lightning strikes through and penetrates the fortress that we've created, the systems and structures that hold up our physical reality, and so these energies actually really challenge one another, but they also bring this extra sense of bring the highest octaves of transformation and liberation into our physical reality, into our relationships, into our relationship with our body, our finances. Let this electric energy of Uranus that brings forth this high octave of enlightenment and sudden impulse and change and this need for freedom to come through and touch the parts of us that are grounded, the parts of us that are this is secure. Can we let that be unscathed? And instead it's no, let that light move through our bodies. Let that light touch into the places where we hold our places of worth and our value. It shines this electric X-ray light into our core values, and it asks are we aligned with our values? does our relationships and our relationship to our money and our work and our physical reality, does that express our deep places of worth and unconditional love? Like, are they in alignment with one another? Because if it's not, if your relationships and your physical world that you've created as like the altar of your life isn't really truly expressing that which your soul is like longing to like emanate and evolve into, then Uranus comes there to like transform it, change it, shake it up. And so this is actually such a poignant moment, because the full moon is actually the culmination of a cycle, of a 6-month cycle. And when we began this 6-month cycle, May 15th, the new moon was in Taurus, and she ushered Uranus as it moved into Taurus, where it will be journeying for 7 years, like ushering us into a ceremony of radical, like earth changes, weather changes, monetary system shifts. Like, as a collective, we are reevaluating, we are liberating and breaking free from power dynamics and systems that do not reflect our core values. This is actually liberating our individual and collective value systems, like freeing us up of all the things that actually don't emanate and represent those core values. And so this full moon comes 6 months later, like after May, when it started to like unearth some of these things we might have felt, like insomnia or like panic or anxiety. Like, we might have felt this like electric, heightened nervous system kind of energy coming in, of like frustration and the need for change, like places that we have maybe been stuck or complacent or stagnant in because we've been afraid to like move out of the comfort zones, or like holding on to like relationships or security or like money or jobs or whatever it is that's been like confining us and not feeding our sense of like worth. Then these are the places that we've been like getting real anxious, that we've been getting real angsty and like ready to move, ready to change. And now this full moon comes to like shine a magnifying lens on those parts of ourselves, on those parts of our collective. Like, where are we in alignment? What do we stake our value and our worth in? Like, is it true to our soul? Is it feeding and nourishing us? What is our relationship to our body, to the earth, to our money, and our sense of power? Like, this full moon can bring like sudden and unexpected changes. It can also bring this like lightning bolt of like enlightenment, renewal, like awakening. Like, it can shift these really stuck patterns that we've been in. It can like break us free of the chains that have like kept our sense of worth down, that have like tied us into things that have been leaking and draining our energy. But it can also create a sense of fear and trauma, a sense of this energy coming through. And if we've had like traumatic experiences in the past, we could respond and react in like, oh my God, something bad is gonna happen. Like, it can like really trigger this fear of the future, this fear of our physical needs or our physical body or our relationships being like changed in a dramatic way, and so I just invite people, like, if you're feeling that sense of like, oh my God, the energy's coming, like something's happening, and I want to like cling and I want to hold on and I want to white knuckle it and I gotta control it, or I gotta do something, or I'm gonna stay up all night and like freak out, or I gotta like do and I gotta move in a space of fear, then I just want to invite you to like go into your center and like in that place of tremendous like anxiety or paranoia or fear, like whatever's bringing you out of like the feeling of like energy channeling through your body in a like liberating and empowering way, go into that place of blockage and like breathe through it, lift up your hands and like allow this like lightning, like X-ray energy of Uranus, like the lightning bolt piercing through the like places of blockage and tension, the places of stuck patterns, the illusions. Let that energy, like, let it move through your illusions, let it move through your patterns and allow it to unhook you, allow it to really truly break up so that you can allow that energy to be like liberating, so that you can allow that energy to open your heart and open your like connection to your worth and your true values, and like be gentle with yourself if it's vulnerable, because it's fucking vulnerable places that it's working with. And so I invite you to go back to that 6 months, May 15th, when the new moon was in Taurus, when Uranus first moved into Taurus and started unearthing these like needs and desires for change and like liberation, you know, to free yourself up. Like, look at your relationships, look at your work or whatever it was that started to feel that frustration and that like, you know, heightened energy, and ask yourself, what has changed? What steps have I made to like actualize that change in my life? And what way can I release more or do more or, you know, reevaluate my perspectives, my illusions or my patterns inside of this, so that I can open to new insight and truly experience that liberation and that change that I'm seeking, that you may have been, you know, just uncovering in those months. And allow this Venus in retrograde in Scorpio that is unearthing like subconscious, like deep and hidden, like potentially shamed, like passionate desires. It is unearthing these parts of us that desire intimacy and merging and union, that desire like transformation, like whatever desires have been arising over the course of this last month. Like, allow those desires to also like be influenced and be penetrated by that light of Uranus. You know, like let that electric light, like this can be like so sensitive to like let this really like shaky, like penetrating light of instability and change and like power to come into these like deep and dark, vulnerable, hidden parts of our like scorpionic nature. You know, like Venus in Scorpio, it's dealing with the places that we value and we stake our worth in. It's dealing with our relationship to power. Like, it's dealing with our relationship to our own sexuality. Like the most vulnerable places of our human like nature is our relationships to like intimacy and sexuality, and like our like need and our like relationship with money and security and transformation and change. And so these energies can be really unsettling. It can be really overwhelming. You know, a lot can be arising for people that's like, you know, past wounds or deep karmic things that we like don't even know how to name. I mean, a lot is even arising for the collective of like these sexual, you know, traumas and these power imbalances. You know, like this is a time where like it's coming up, and like these places of our deep, like sensual, sexual, physical, intimate nature is like asking to be like acknowledged and revised. Like, take a look at your relationships. Like, what agreements and contracts have we made? Like, how are you feeling empowered in every relationship of your life? How can you like reclaim that power inside of every dynamic? You know, like that's the places where like finding the places where our energy, our life force energy has been like wrapped up in shame, has been wrapped up inside of the other, inside of a wound, inside of some sort of like experience. And it's time to like reclaim it now. And so it's like deep, vulnerable, unearthing wells of Scorpio and Taurus. And then it's like lightning bolt of Uranus coming to like radically liberate and penetrate. And so how I would see it is like tapping into those deep places where they hold the root systems of some of these stories of shame and some of these places where we sabotage our needs from being met. Like find where it is in our body, find how it leaks our power, and then draw yourself into that place and allow it to come up to be embodied and expressed. And then let that light of Uranus come in, hopefully in a sweet nectar of like spiritual enlightenment and like essence. Let it pour down in and start to like move through the root systems of those painful places, you know. And if it comes in sudden trauma, if it comes in like radical, horrible, like earth-shaking energy, then like somehow open up to that too. Like I said, let those hands come up, but let it get down to those like really deep and vulnerable places. And this is also a time, it's not all intense and traumatizing and like unshaking and like overwhelming, but this can be also a time where Saturn is coming into trine. Saturn being this like stable, grounded, like ruling like our structures, ruling the places of our, you know, power dynamics between our internal authority and our like external relationships between authority and power. And so this can be like a stabilizing energy to like come and support that, as though Uranus is like unearthing and shaking up everything, that we also have this like energy of Saturn trining it, like in Capricorn, that rules structures and authority. Like Saturn's been working on us all year to like reclaim our authorship of our lives and to like reevaluate the structures of our life that like don't nurture and fulfill and sustain us. You know, it's the places that we don't feel like we can have our emotional needs met. But Saturn is inviting us into the space of like, if your emotional needs aren't being met, if your relationship to your inner authority is not in alignment with your relationship dynamics, with your structures of your life, then shift it, change it. And so this is a time of restructuring. It's a time of breaking down the foundations, like that Uranus breaks through, and it creates that need for change and radical liberation. But Saturn's there to try and say, rebuild, like take responsibility. Like, how do you actually create lasting change? This is a time where don't just break down. Like, this is a time where we break down, we break through, and we build. And we draw the power into ourselves. We don't just blame and shame and project that we have to push away and slash and burn all the bridges of our relationships that are keeping us down and holding our needs from being met and holding us down from being free and liberated. It's like, no, how do we take that authority into ourselves and create boundaries and like create like a support and a container for all the different parts of ourselves and our relationships? You know, so this energy can really be something that like draws us into accountability and integrity when there's a lot of volatility going on, when there's a lot of instability and reactionary energy that we could be like really ready to like slash burn, harsh, brash, you know, responses and reactions. And instead it's like Saturn's like, okay, make changes. And are you being responsible? Like, is this true liberation? Or are you just running? Are you just disassociating? Like, draw yourself into that place that creates such healthy communication, healthy boundaries, and like new ways of being in relationships, new ways of being in, you know, relationship to your own power. So the last but not least of the components of alchemy in this cauldron that we have here for this full moon is this grand square that is being activated in and around the opposition between this Taurus and Venus axes. And so the Sun and Venus in Scorpio is opposing this full moon in Taurus, conjuncting Uranus, and is squaring the nodes of the moon. And so we have the north and the south node that we've been journeying in all year, working on healing this axis between the Leo and the Aquarius, between our authentic heart of our creative being, like liberating and expressing who we are, our unique medicine, and that Aquarius that desires freedom and liberation, that desires to like be released from the confines of its own like mind and from roles and restrictions of society and obligations. You know, Aquarius desires to free itself of these roles and these traumas and these different things that confine it from being able to like integrate itself into the whole. And the Leo is the north node, so it's that which our soul is like evolving towards. We're evolving the aspect that allows us to tap into our own unique medicine and shine and offer that gift in a way that like feeds and nourishes us and is not draining. And so as you can see, I just really want to draw the line of connection here of how these all like square one another, but also how they really ask to refine one another. Like squares are these major places of tension. You know, it creates this push and this pull and this challenge, you know, where the energies and the archetypes, they don't like, they challenge one another. They don't flow exactly as easily into one another because oftentimes they desire things that are contrary. But if you actually evolve them, then they activate one another. They bring one another into a place of like deeper evolution and like an embodiment of the more true aspects of that archetype as we, you know, deal with the Taurus Scorpio axes of like uncovering these parts of our values and our self-worth that maybe our lives aren't in alignment with, and our relationships, and like uncovering these places where our sexual energy and our creative like life force potency and our desires have been like wrapped in shame. And so how I see these energies, like if we're able to like go through this journey of healing and truly liberating and bringing our values into alignment with our life, then that's gonna free up like the root systems of our energy that is gonna feed and fuel this like essence of Leo, that's gonna fuel this blossom to happen. And so we can't blossom into our like true self-expression and our like glorious like bloom, you know, the high octave of our bloom of what we're here to offer and give and embody and express, if we have like our root systems and our like energy wrapped and corded in these places of unworthiness and of shame, you know? And so this is really a time of like liberating that Leo, liberating, you know, that creative self-expression, and allowing for these deep and subconscious and like hidden places that we have been refusing to look at, these dynamics of how we navigate our sexual energy, of how we bring our inner worlds up to the surface. Like this is a time of asking for us to evaluate our intentions and our motives, and evaluate like our power in every dynamic of our life, so that it can really start to like feed and fuel and nourish that like high octave expression, that beautiful, unique, psychedelic, juicy flower that is you, you know? And so with that note, I just want to say, like, this journey, it may feel psychedelic, it may feel deep, and this energy of Uranus and this energy of Aquarius, like, it adds volatility, it adds this like instability, this earth shaking, this unearthing to come up. But let those things come up and like call down that grace, you know, call down the grace to like receive the enlightened, like awakened vision through the illusion, so that this like unstable energy can actually propel you into like the direction that you're meant to go. It can actually allow you to create these real, solid, Saturnian, you know, life-changing structures in your life, and heal your relationships, heal your dynamics of power, and like reclaim your deep soul desires, and allow them to really be brought up and played out and like integrated, brought into the light. So with that, blessings on this full moon. May you tap into that psychedelic, juicy flower that is you, and may that intoxicating essence and this alchemy of planetary energies that are aligning just for you, just for all of us, to like wake up and really like come into that true tantric experience of bringing spirit in to the physicality, like bringing these high octaves of spirit into these like human, vulnerable, like stuck and scared parts of our relationships and our money and our sexuality. Like liberate these very human parts of us. That's true Tantra.